Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Richardson, and I'm your host today. And I'd like to welcome you to our global smartphone camera trends webinar, looking ahead to 2022. Now, smartphones have disrupted the digital camera market over the last 10 years or so, so much so, in fact, that now smartphones are beginning to rival DSLRs in terms of some of the image capture and some of the innovations that are coming into the camera market. In fact, you could argue that a lot of camera phones are better than DSLRs because it's the camera you're most likely to have with you. It's in the pockets of everyone as they walk around. So over the next hour or so, we're going to touch into various perspectives around the numbers, around the devices, what's happening in terms of the technology in smartphone cameras, and of course, we'll have a look at some of the end products, the actual pictures. We'll show you what we're seeing in the market and how that maps to what is happening on the ground and where it's all headed, what this means for the end user. But before we get into our first speaker, we've set aside some time at the end of the presentations for a live Q&A with our guest speakers. So we do welcome your questions. Please use the panel on the screen as we move through the webinar, and we'll do our best to address your questions in the Q&A section at the end. And even if we don't, we will come back to you to the email that you've registered with. So to kick things off, I'd like to welcome my colleague Tarun Patak, who's a research director within our smartphone practice, who will set the stage in the terms of the numbers and what's happening over there. Tarun, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tarun Pathak, and I look after devices and ecosystem research at Counterpoint. Over the next 7 to 8 minutes, what I'll do is I'll set the context on the evolution of cameras within smartphones and see what major trends are happening within the smartphone segment. So I'll load my slides and walk them through one by one. So let's talk about the global smartphone market first. So what is happening is, of course, the first half of 2021 was good. We were coming from the pandemic-driven year of 2020 when every region was impacted by the COVID. But we are now seeing some signs of slowdown, and that is happening in different regions of the world. So, for example, if you look at China, is more or less saturated now, and the component shortages is hitting each and every region. But then there are some pockets of growth as well. Some of the regions, like let's say Middle East Africa, they are growing in double digits year on year, and then LATAM is slowly recovering from the pandemic. We have seen certain countries like India, of course, it was down year on year. But if you look at from the growth potential, we still have like almost half of the people yet to be connected to the smartphones. So a lot of potential, but the underlying trend here is on the component shortages. So what that means is it is impacting your load to mid-tier even higher, and the growth is now being the demand is being met by the mid to high end phones, which essentially means that consumers are putting a lot of effort on weighing down different features which they will prefer when they're going for a choice in the mid to high end phones. And if you look at the content consumption on the phone has increased significantly. So these are the key features on your phone that can drive for a satisfaction or dissatisfaction within your phone from the consumer perspective. So we have done a survey where we have listed the major reasons for dissatisfaction and the reason for satisfaction. And if we have to pinpoint on camera, you can see like the rear camera is number 3 in the list in terms of dissatisfaction, while on the satisfaction side of it, it's at number 5, which means people, as much they love having appreciate their rear cameras on the phone, if they are not up to the mark as per their expectation, they will also rate them higher in terms of dissatisfaction, which means the entire supply chain within the camera has looked into this trend, and I think a lot of innovation has happened over the past couple of years, where some features have trickled down to the lower price tier, and that's why we have seen, let's say, from the megapixel point of view, 48 megapixel and above has penetrated actually very faster in the mid to high end smartphones. And now, of all the smartphones being sold, 43% or more have a megapixel more than 48. And these trends are changing rapidly. It's like if you look at the highest megapixel on your phone right now, in the rear camera is closer to 108 megapixel. On the selfie side of it, it's closer to is actually 48 megapixels. So those trends are changing, and it's not going to limit to these numbers only. I think if you look at the recent developments, Samsung has announced this 200 megapixel Isocell a sensor that is going to be there as part of your high-end phones in next year. So these trends are changing very rapidly. As a result of it, if you can see the overall CIS content, the image sensor content on the phones has been increasing rapidly, even though the smartphone shipments actually declined last year, which means a lot of these features are penetrating into the diffusing into the low tier and mid tier very very fast. And more than two-thirds of the cameras, if you look at in coming years, will be either a tri camera or a quad camera in that sense from the numbers perspective. And of course, this trend is not like if you look at from the trend perspective, this is not indicative of one particular region. We are seeing this trend happening across different regions, whether it is an emerging market or whether it is a developed market. If you see the trends of quad camera and above, actually is being driven by the Western Europe and Eastern Europe, which is more or less a developed market, and also by India, which is a developing market. So that's the key takeaway, that we are seeing the adoption of these features faster across different regions, across different countries. And let's talk about beyond the numbers, right? Consumers are getting more and more aware about what is happening on the camera side on their phones. It's not just about the number of megapixels or number of lens. It is also about the choice of those lenses, what is happening behind the scenes on these phones. I think if you look at the two major trends that are likely to drive this in coming years, one is like the size of your image sensors, and the second thing is the AI on your phones. I think that is going to have a major impact on the choice or the experience of phones when it comes to cameras. And if you look at the supply chain is working towards it, we have seen a lot of features that have arrived recently, like be it like 4K video shooting or cinematic mode capability, double selfie cameras, portrait length modules. All these are coming on your smartphones very fast as compared to the previous year. And I think on top of the increasing megapixel, the pixel merging technology was also introduced to allow mid to high pixel sensors to imitate big pixel sensors by combining the neighboring cells. So these kind of innovations are also happening, that will enable the to actually accelerate the entire customer experience on your phones. Very exciting times when it comes to certain features we can see in our cameras in coming years. So to conclude, I think I'll highlight on the four major trends that are happening. So one is like camera will continue to be a very critical buying decision feature across different countries, irrespective of whether it is developed or emerging. Uh, the hardware improvements will bring new capabilities. I think the features in the premium market will trickle down to the mid tier very fast. We have seen the improvements what are happened in the, let's say, the macro side of it or the telephoto side of it, or even on the zoom capabilities, they have trickled down to the mid tier faster than ever before. And I think the third one is on the hardware side of things. We have seen the count of the cameras, the quad cams will start, the share of them will keep increasing. In fact, the 48 megapixel is the trend, or in fact, if it is 64 megapixel, maybe the next year it will be all about 108 megapixel cameras. So those kind of upgrades will continue to happen. And the last one, which I believe is going to be have a major impact on the overall camera experience, is the AI and the software algorithms that will actually have the impact on your overall camera experience. I think if you look at with the transition to the 5G, we have ever increasing processing power and efficiency on our phones, and that can drive a lot of use cases when it comes to cameras. So AI will have a major impact on that. And what this entire four trends will lead to, this leads to a camera experience that will be very closer to a DSLR performance in coming years. So I believe very exciting times for consumers, and of course a headache for them as well to pick and choose the best, because nowadays it's not about clicking the best picture of yourself, but it is also about the surroundings, the environment where you are right now. So I think a lot of interesting developments our panelists will also discuss over the course of this session. And I hope this is useful. And over to you, Peter. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in.
Thanks, Tarun. That was really interesting. And it's amazing to see that the biggest share of smartphones today are in the 48 megapixel range, and that the rear cameras are now, counting their number in 3 or even 4. Our next guest today comes from the smartphone maker Techno, and he's going to share some of the interesting camera technologies that they're bringing to their customers. So please welcome Senior Product Manager for Image Technology, Jimmy Su.
Thank you, Peter. 大家好，我是来自 Techno 影像技术部的高级产品经理 Jimmy， 的业内代表，和大家共同分享 Techno 在手机影像趋势方面的动态和见解。我们看一下手机相机发展的维度 ，Imaging 和 Sensing 这两个维度。其中 Imaging 的发展维度还可以细分为更好的成像质量和更快的图像处理速度。Sensing 则是 Imaging 以及 Information 的双重叠加，让手机影像的发展从单纯的记录延伸到更深层次的情感表达需求这一块，比如自拍，比如在社交平台上和大家分享我们的影像记录。同时，我们可以期待 ToF 和 DVS 在未来的一个发展，比如 ToF 可以传递深度的信息 ，DVS 可以传输更高的帧率。所以在 ToF 和 DVS 未来将成为手机相机可以超越单反相机的发力之处。从 Imaging 和 Sensing 的维度出发，我们见证了市场和消费者对于智能手机影像更多样化，同时也更个性化的需求。这一页显示了手机影像领域日新月异的需求变化。在这些备受关注的发展趋势中，我们看一下这幅 slide 的右侧有4个方面成为其中的主流需求 ：large sensor size 更大的传感器尺寸，影像反抖效果 ，zoom 无损变焦 ，high resolution 更高像素的分辨率。传感器尺寸的放大意味着，即使在黑暗和背光的情况下，手机也能拍出兼具清晰度和亮度的画质。传感器尺寸从2020年上半年的1.1/3英寸不断的进化，预计将在2022年至2023年达到1.11英寸，并且 HDR 技术、4PD 快速对焦的技术也会被相应的配置。影像反抖一直是消费者在手机影像领域的另一个重要的诉求，其中超广角反抖和高频反抖的能力将会显著的提升。我们看一下 Slice 的一个对比视频，有反抖和没有反抖它的成像的一个差别。我们可以看出，有反抖的它的成像质量的体验是非常的好的，所以反抖技术将是未来视频的一个重要的发展领域。2022年上半年 Sensor Shift OIS 加上 Lens Shift OIS 双 OIS 有机会实现量产，并且云台的反抖角度有机会进一步扩大到5度甚至更大。到2023年，普通的 OIS 反抖角度 也将进一步加大到3到5度。在 Zoom 连续无损变焦这块，连续无损变焦将成为手机变焦的重要。在应用了长行程马达和 AOA 后，2倍连续无损变焦将在2022年下半年实现，随之3倍连续无损变焦将在2023年下半年实现。消费者将在获得成像质量的基础上，满足多情景拍照的需求，比如我们的人像拍照以及更远的长焦摄影。与此相对应的是分辨率和帧率也在显著的提高，从最初的 SD、Full HD 到目前的 4K 60帧画质，未来我们可以实现 8K 60帧的超画质。基于上述手机影像的最新发展趋势和消费者的需求， Techno 会在2022年发布如下3个核心的技术：第一， RGBW 加上 G+P 的技术，以及 Sensor Shift 的技术，还有伸缩镜头这个技术，在这3个核心技术上发力，在2022年继续为消费者带来进阶化的手机影像体验。首先，我们来看一下第一个技术。Techno 的手机摄像头将会采用 RGBW 亚像素渲染算法，将 CMOS 传感器捕获的进光量提高 60%， 并且依托 G+P 的镜头技术，能够使进光量再度提升 30%。两项技术叠加将使整体的进光量提高2倍左右，为消费者带来革命性的低光成像体验。这些功能将在2022年的 Techno 新品上量产。好，我们来看一下第二个核心技术。Sensor Shift 是一种图像稳定技术，它通过传感器移动而非镜头移动来补偿整动。在这项新技术的加持下，即使没有外置云台稳定设备，消费者也可以拍摄出工作室品质的视频。好，我们来看一下 Sensor Shift 的介绍视频。与传统的 OIS 技术相比， Techno 的 Sensor Shift 已可达到每秒5000次的响应频率。未来 Techno 的 Sensor Shift 控制精度将达到目前水平的 350%， 并且我们还会进一步优化算法。我们计划在2022年发布 Sensor Shift 技术，将使 Techno 成为安卓系统中第一个使用该技术的手机品牌。好，我们看一下我们的第3个核心技术，堪比专业相机设计的伸缩式镜头。它将为消费者带来更加轻薄的手机外观，更优的暗拍和人像效果，甚至未来可以通过连续变焦，使得一个镜头满足多场景拍照的需求。好，我们来看一下伸缩镜头的效果视频。通过 BFL 设计，将大幅呈现更轻薄的机身厚度，美化外观，同时更大的光圈和连续无损变焦也让消费者可以随手拍出更专业的成像，拥有更愉悦的手机影像体验。我们带有伸缩镜头的概念机不久后将在2022年第1季度亮相。上述3项是我们在2022年将整合的3大核心手机影像技术。手机影像技术一直是 Techno 业务发展的核心支柱。在影像领域，我们始终聚焦的是深肤色影像和全球新兴市场，力求将我们的影像创新力传递给超过70个国家和地区的消费者，他们遍布非洲、拉美、中东、欧洲、印度和东南亚。Techno 作为深肤色成像领域的专家，我们秉承 Global Innovation， 也就是说全球视角、本地创新的理念，通过 Taiwan Lab 超凡影像实验室，针对不同肤色、人种、社会环境以及生活场景， 结合底层大数据和数万次调试，呈现更符合消费者期待的前沿影像解决方案。通过聚焦深肤色影像领域和贴近本地消费者的深入洞察，我们希望达成美好的愿景是定义深肤色美学标准和多元化的美。Techno 去年加入 ITU 国际标准组织，由 Techno 所主导的全球首个移动终端计算摄影系统国际标准已正式立项。这一立项意味着我们正在定义深肤色美学的国际标准。我们希望这种多元化的美通过我们的镜头不断迭代呈现，通过引领深肤色领域手机影像技术创新，与全球新兴市场消费者一起共同定义手机影像对于我们生活的意义。以上是我今天的分享，谢谢大家。
Thank you, Jimmy. And now let's bring in somebody from one of the component makers that makes the provision of smartphone cameras possible. So let me hand over to Dr. Pan Shuibo, Vice President and Head of R&D at Samsung Electronics China.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for your introduction. I actually present a small presentation to introduce our Samsung CMOS image sensor. So then now let me start my presentation. So hello everyone. Welcome to Samsung CMOS image sensor, the Isocell session. I'm Pan Shuibo, head of Samsung Semiconductor China Research. So it's my great honor to attend this Innovators Talk webinar. So today, I will introduce to all of you our Isocell technology. And following the slogan of Stop at Nothing, we name our sensor session Capture Everything. This means we will capture everything that our eye can see. So before we dive into technical details, it is worth to spend some time to compare our eye with the mobile camera. Mobile camera usually composed of the lens, the actuator, the image sensor, and the ISP to process the image, and then finally generate the image we can see with our eye. Similarly, for our eye, also composed with the lens, with the ciliary muscle and the retina as the light sensor, and also our brain to process all the visual images, and finally, we can see the image actually in our brain. Our Isocell, the final goal is to make a sensor which is can work exactly as our eye. So just as our session's name, we target to capture everything that our eye can see. Before we can reach our final goal, so we set our intermediate goal, which is to implement a DSLR camera in performance inside the mobile phone. DSLR camera usually need to change a different lens for specific effect or for specific the scenarios. And similarly, we accomplish this in smartphone by putting multiple camera modules with different functions and switch between them according to different scenarios to get the best image. That's why you can see quite many camera modules inside the smartphone today. Now let me introduce our Isocell technology. Isocell is our sensor's brand name and composed of two words. One is isolate, one is the cell. This means that for our sensor, the pixel only capture the light belong to this pixel and isolate from other pixels, and then convert the light energy into the digital signals and send to ISP for process. So to get a clear, bright picture with a lot of details, it is utmost important to prevent the crosstalk between these cells. While our Isocell, through the best-in-class isolation, we are leading in this technology. Samsung had started our sensor business since almost 20 years ago. And since 2013, Isocell became our brand name and the platform. And in year 2015, we delivered the first 1.0 micrometer pixel size with a 16 megapixel sensor. And since then, we keep breaking the technical limitations. And we delivered 108 million pixel sensor with 0.7 micrometer pixel size. And even in this year, we already achieved 200 million pixel sensor with a 0.64 pixel size. While we are keep increasing the resolution and the pixel numbers, we also adopt the pixel merge technology to merge the pixel 2x2, 3x3, or even 4x4 to create an equally big size of the pixel and can absorb more light in the dark environment to provide the best image quality. So from our sensor history, you can see we are keep shrinking the pixel size. Why? This is because if you want to take a clear, bright picture with a lot of detail, or you want to take a high resolution video, you must have more pixels. If you don't reduce the pixel size, then the sensor will getting bigger and the module will getting thicker, and it will eventually create a big bump at the back of the mobile phone, which is not acceptable by an user. Give you an example. If we keep a pixel size not changed, say 0.8 micrometers, and the pixel numbers goes high to 600 million pixels, and the module thickness will get to 22 millimeters, which is 3 times thicker than current mobile phone, which is totally not usable in our daily life. Now you understand why we need shrinking the pixel size. But on the other hand, the smaller the pixel, the less the light you can capture in this pixel, and the harder to get a good image quality in dark environment. This is the dilemma we are facing. However, our Isocell technology can perfectly resolve this dilemma to ensure further pixel size reduction while still keep good image quality. But how? How we can achieve this? Just like our human eye, the pupil will dilate when we are in a dark environment, and to let more light comes into our eye, and then you can see clear. And similarly, for our Isocell sensor, once in low light conditions, our algorithm will automatically put our sensor into the high sensitivity mode, which means that we merge the cell 2x2 as tetrapixel, 3x3 as nonapixel, and even 4x4 to create an equally big size of the pixel, and so that it can absorb more light and provide a bright picture. So this is exactly as our pupils dilation in the dark environment. While in the bright condition, the algorithm will automatically turn tetra or nona or 4x4 merge to high resolution mode. And then you can still can take a clear, bright picture with a lot of details. So through this kind of algorithm, our Isocell sensor can provide the best-in-class image quality with natural and vivid color in all light conditions. Here is an example. Without the pixel merge technology, you can see this picture looks dark, looks not colorful, looks not in detail. But with our pixel merge technology, 2x2, 3x3, or even 4x4 to create the big size pixel and to absorb more light, now you can see the picture getting brighter, getting colorful, and you can see a lot of detail. Both as the industry innovators, so we partner with Techno to provide a better camera experience to our customers. Samsung is developing a new type of camera sensor, which with RGBW color pattern. Why RGBW? Because RGBW color pattern can greatly improve the light sensitivity to provide the bright image even in the very low light conditions by adding this white pixel in the color pattern. So we also nickname this RGBW sensor the most human eye-like image sensor, because the white pixel and the RGB pixel are exactly simulate our eye's retina, the rod cell, and the cone cell. So that's all for today's Samsung CMOS image sensor Isocell session. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Let's continue our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. That was really interesting. We're going to switch gears a little bit with our final guest, here to talk about what makes a picture great and how the various smartphones out there measure up across different market segments. And this is somebody from Dxomark, their image science director and product owner, Hervé Makudzinski. Over to you, Hervé.
Thanks, Peter, for this introduction. I am Hervé. I am in charge of the image quality team here in Dxomark. At Dxomark, we are an independent company that is focusing on testing electronic products. We are working on camera for smartphone, but also for drones, for video conference and surveillance cameras. We are also providing a lot of tests for audio, battery, and screen. Today, we will focus this presentation on the smartphone industry. And the first part will be a short overview of Dxomark. Then we will focus this presentation on the third-party testing, which is, on our point of view, essential in order to have a fair evaluation of product. Then an introduction about our methodology. And the final part of this presentation will try to provide some highlights on what is a great photography and what makes a great photography. And then we will share some results for image quality and price segment. So who we are? So we are an independent industry leading supplier for image, audio, and battery and display. We are providing labs, which means measurement evaluation setup, but we are also providing training course, and we are the editor of Dxomark.com. The Dxomark test methodology is always the same. We are focusing on use case. For example, here it's an illustration about how we design a main camera for smartphone protocol, and we are listing the use case, and then we are translating this use case into objective test lab suites, but also perceptual test real life. And based on all these use case and all these tests, we are building a scoring system that will be correlated with the final user experience. Here, it's a very good overview of our methodology and our report strategy. We are always using a very large and comprehensive objective measurement set, which is the basement of all our testing system. And then we are also using a very exhaustive user-related based on human vision evaluation, which means that we have a lot of real use cases that are shot regularly, and we will compare the objective measurement with the perceptual evaluation, so that we can build a sub-scoring system per IQ attributes and then build an overall score for photo, zoom, and video, for example. With this overall score, we are providing the final score, which is the Dxomark camera score, and which is very convenient to select the best product with respect to your needs. So a great photograph is much more than a specification. To make a good photography, you need to have good photographer skills. You need to capture the moment, which means provide the clearest information at the right time. And here it's the challenge for the smartphone to do that. Then we need to have a very good processing, which means understand what was the user intention during the capture and modify the image adequately. And then overall, the smartphone camera should provide all these capabilities in the default mode, which means that the final smartphone user do not have to think to everything. You just have to press the button. And then the smartphone will provide the equivalent of the DSLR capture quality with the virtual professional photographer inside the smartphone that will provide the final perfect image. So this is the challenge of the smartphone industry currently. But it's also more than just specification. Usually we are always trying to evaluate smartphone quality just based on the specification. But in fact, specification is only that part of the whole photography pipeline. And after that, there's a lot of items that makes a great photography. The ISP capabilities are very important. Algorithm, of course, are also very important, but we never have to forget the weight of the integration and the tuning effort that will make the final image perfect. And what we need to do in the smartphone industry, we need to extend the photo and the video capabilities. Smartphone camera is the first camera. This is the camera that everybody has in his pocket, and this is the camera that will be used. So it needs to work on every kind of picture, every kind of use case. So we need to cover more and more challenging use case like sport photography, which needs to freeze the motion as much as possible. We need to cover long telephoto shoot, which needs also to keep very good dynamic range and good detail for long range zoom ratio, for example. We need to also to provide ultra wide field of view, very wide capabilities, and things that is more and more popular is the video, and especially action or sport videos, which means also very challenging technology, key features like focus tracking and efficient stabilization. If we look at the data and if we look at all our score, here it's a good overview of the current quality that is provided for all the price segments. In blue, you have the ultra premium devices. In red, you have premium devices. In green, high-end. And in purple, you have advanced. It's just a matter of price, and the price segment are defined on dxomark.com. So overall, the first message is consumer get the quality they paid for. So the promise are, I mean, overall delivered to the consumer, which is a good news. But once we have said that, you can also see easily that there is a very huge difference of quality inside one price segment. So of course, these two devices that are scoring an overall score of more than 140 will provide a significantly better user experience than the device that are providing only a 115 score here. The second message is that, in fact, we are a lot speaking about flagship killers. In fact, there are some flagship killers, but not so much. Overall, you can see that in the premium devices, this device is close to the best ultra premium. But after that, there's not so much devices that are corresponding to what we call flagship killer from the camera point of view. So there is a big challenge for other segment to provide the overall quality that is provided with higher segment, but it's feasible. And it means integration, algorithm, and tuning effort to provide this kind of quality. Then, speaking about ultra premium, they aim to maximize the user experience at all levels, which means all the photo space and all the video space. For the other price segment, there are some trade-off that needs to be done. Here, it's the overall quality that is provided. So here you have the raw score, the photo score, the zoom score, video, and low light. The message is ultra premium is providing very good quality for everything, but especially for zoom and low light. The other segments are not managing to provide very good quality for these two parts. For the video, in fact, if you look at the score, high-end, premium, and ultra premium are providing something similar. But there are some new devices that are providing something really great, like the iPhone 13 Pro. Here, it's just a slide that showed maybe the next challenge. The iPhone 13 Pro is the first device that is providing a consistent HDR video experience for the whole pipeline. So this is very interesting and should be very popular in the coming. What are the next priorities for the price segment? I would say that we can expect that for ultra premium, video will be the topic for the coming months and year, especially the HDR part of view, but also the cinematic experience. For the premium, we can expect a significant improvement on the zoom quality, and especially the increase of the camera module number could be expected for this kind of segment. For high-end, I think we can still expect some significant improvement on the low light experience. And for advanced, there's still a lot of work and a lot of features that are not yet available, especially for video. 4K and stabilization, for example, is not yet available for this kind of segment. So this is overall the overview for all the marketing segments. Thank you for your time. And Peter, I will let you go on.
Great, thank you very much, Hervé. And it's fascinating how Dxomark deconstructs all the elements that go into taking a great picture with a smartphone and then quantifying the results across the broader smartphone market. And it's also interesting to see how tightly packed the overall scores seem to be across the different price bands, particularly in the $400 to $600 and $600 to $800 dollar price band. So if I can turn to you, Jimmy, and I'm going to ask Yang Wang, our analyst for Middle East Africa, to provide some translations here. So when we look at the $400 to $600 price segment, which is where Techno has recently launched new devices, and it's an extremely competitive space. Jimmy, can you expand on some of the areas that Techno is focusing to bring customers a differentiated imaging experience?
Thank you, Peter. 谢谢 Peter。那 Jimmy， 我们第一个问题是我们观察到400到600美元的价位的竞争其实是非常激烈的，而 Techno 最近也在此价位发布新的手机。那么我们想问 Techno 从技术层面有哪些方面的提升，能够给用户不同的体验呢
？400到600美元左右的细分市场是非常有竞争力的，我们也很有信心在这个细分市场中为消费者带来更优化的手机相机体验。比如我们今年推出的旗舰产品 Phantom X， 也希望把我们的进阶影像技术随着旗舰机带给消费者。正如赫夫所提到的，算法和调试可以为用户提供良好的相机体验，这其中首先是基础的技术支撑，比如三星的 Isocell 技术，同时 AI 算法和调试也是非常关键的。我们希望定义美的多样性，这也是为什么我们建立了 Taiwas 影像实验室，把 AI 优化方案落到实处，同时诠释了不同地区对于美的定义。这些地区包括非洲、拉美、东南亚等一些我们核心的市场。还有一点想和大家分享的是 Techno 作为深肤色成像领域的专家，我们拥有全球最大和最准确的数据库，对于人脸面部的结构、肤色类型，还有皮肤等等身形和用户偏好等进行深入的研究。目前已制作了超过6000个应用场景，涵盖了115个国家和地区，为消费者提供更强的 AI 的算法。 我们希望通过人工智能的算法和软件，为消费者提供更具个性化的影像体验。谢谢杨。
Thanks, Jimmy. Too great answers. Maybe I can bring Tarun in now. Tarun, we've looked at quite a bit of this through our studies. Would you like to expand on the discussion here?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Peter. So actually, people do love their selfie cameras. I think it's a way of self-expression. And in fact, if you look at our consumer research, what we have done over the past couple of years, selfie cameras are among the top 5 reasons for satisfaction for consumers within their phones. And conversely, at the same time, it is also at the number within top 3 reasons for dissatisfaction as well. Which makes a logical conclusion that people are very, very keen about these specifications, especially around camera. And the probability is like if you mask a smartphone and put it in a busy subway station, if there is one feature that can allow a smartphone to sell on its own, we believe that it can be camera. So yes, I agree that selfie is going to be the most important feature which is driving consumer preferences in certain price tiers.
Thanks, Tarun. So let me bring Hervé into the discussion here. So Tarun is speaking from India, and it's Dxomark's advanced segment. That's in the 200 to 400 band. That is a big OEM sweet spot in India, and the scores there look pretty good. But Hervé, if you were to suggest some areas for improvement, what advice would you give to smartphone OEMs looking to really make a difference in that segment?
Thank you for your question. So for the advanced segments, of course, there will be some trade-offs and some choice to be done. We cannot afford to provide all the user experience that ultra premium could provide, but there are some significant improvement over the years, and we can expect, of course, great improvement on hardware, but also on algorithm and ISP tuning capabilities. So there is 3 aspect that should be improved drastically in the coming months. After that, it will be a matter of choice depending on customers' main expectation. So on the rear camera, I see 3 main topic. For the selfie camera, I would list 2 other topic. For the main camera, I would list zoom from the ultra wide quality to the TD, which means a lot of challenge on the hardware point of view, which means more camera on the devices, and this is what we also said previously. I see also video improvement, especially for advanced segment. We can expect better resolution, like 4K mode, which is sometimes not available with the stabilization, which is very important to provide good user experience. And then we have the low light. For low light, and this is true for main, but also for selfie, this is one of the topic that could lead to, I would say, disappointing quality for now. And low light is a bit the holy grail of the mobile photography, because there is all the challenge inside this use case. In low light, we are still capturing portrait, family, pets, and so on. So which means that we need to provide good quality with a significant lower level of light. From hardware point of view, it means a low level of photon, a low level of sensibility. So it means very big challenge to design wider camera module, which means larger sensor, wider aperture, and so on. On the software point of view, we need also more algorithm. We need more frames in order to limit the noise. We need also better algorithm in order to provide good portrait quality. So low light is a bit sort of mix of what is complicated for photography, but it means also the challenge for the coming months.
All right, thanks, Hervé. So turning to the image sensor manufacturer, so we have Dr. Pan Shuibao. So Dr. Pan, if I can ask you, that the Isocell technology that you discussed in your presentation seems to have progressed to the point where the sensor is now able to meet some very conflicting demands from different smartphone manufacturers for both for kind of high resolution in bright environments, but also that high sensitivity in low light conditions, which Dxomark, in their tests, really kind of brings to the fore. So, as a smartphone analyst, I guess there are a few considerations that we need to think about. One is, cost consideration of the Tetra and Nona merging technology. Is this something which is available to OEMs at different price points? And given the current supply constraint conditions, how difficult is the manufacturing process now when we're thinking about the kind of the leading edge sensor technologies? And are there any risks for OEMs when they're thinking about specifying camera modules of this type?
Hey, thanks, Pete. That's a great question. So basically, ability to dynamically change between interchange between normal mode with the Tetra or Nona mode is definitely a game changer, because we can make a camera to work, get good image quality in all light conditions. Normally, if we want to apply a complex technology, it will cost higher cost, because either it will increase the wafer cost or it will you need to integrate more functions. However, Samsung we makes the technical progress faster than the cost increase. So while our customer getting the benefit from our Tetra or Nona, this new technology, they don't need to pay more cost actually. Also, like Tetra and Nona technology is already adopted and supported a broader range of devices. For example, like Techno's Spark Camel devices or their flagship Phantom X. And on the other hand, from manufacturer and supply chain perspective, as we know, this semiconductor manufacturing process is obviously a very capital intensive and extremely complex process. But Samsung, as you know, we has long time experience as the DRAM maker. This means our process are very robust and the yield rate is very high. So we have no issue from the manufacturer process point of view. And currently the key issue now is that the sensor resolution is getting higher and higher, and it will cost, each sensor, the die size will increase, and it will eventually increase the overall, make the larger capacity request. So plus, another key issue is that for our phone makers, their resolution plan for their cameras inside the smartphone is very dynamic. This also increases the complexity of the supply chain. So as an image sensor supply, to minimize the manufacturing and the supply leading time issue, Samsung consistently communicates with our customers like Techno in advance to make sure our customers' needs are reflected in our product strategy and the product planning. Of course, also this in a long-term way. As such, we can minimize the impact of the negative situation, like the supply chain shortages. Okay, that's from my side. Thanks, Peter.
Okay, thank you very much, Shubal. Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, because many of the supply chain issues that we are seeing right now are tending to come from more mismatches and issues with broader supply chain management rather than a pure lack of supply. But moving the conversation away from the technical side and thinking more about the end user perspective, and considering that many of us have potentially an opportunity to buy, given the things like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which are right upon us, and then looking at the holiday season. So coming back to you, Hervé, can you give some recommendations on how people can approach shopping for a great camera phone experience?
Yes, here at Dxomark we are providing a lot of data to our readers, and especially we are providing ranking for each segment. So, of course, it's always a matter of price, and depending on the price, you will get different kind of quality, different kind of performance with respect to the use case. So at first, I would recommend to know a bit what you are intending to capture. And depending on the use case, your favorite use case, you could have different best options. It's very important to make sure that your device will work with your favorite use case. It could be sport, it could be portrait, it could be low light capture, landscape, and so on. Here at Dxomark, we are providing such kind of ranking on dxomark.com. Of course, camera is important. Selfie camera is also very important. This is a very important aspect when we choose a new smartphone, and we are also providing this kind of ranking on dxomark.com. So once that's said, once again, it's always a matter of trade-off between price and features. If you have enough of money to afford ultra premium, do not hesitate to go because overall ultra premium devices are providing the quality they promise. For the other segment, there are very good options also, but be sure that the device provide the good quality for your best use case. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Hervé. So on that note, coming to you, Tarun, what are your thoughts on the overall market for this holiday season?
Yeah, as expected, I think we are seeing a very strong demand coming into this holiday season. And I think if you look at segment the entire demand as per the price tier, I think it's the mid tier that is going to drive a bulk of the sales. And that is where it also makes it a very competitive price tier where the role of cameras will be even more higher, because as you move from, let's say, from the entry tier to mid to premium, the uptake of the cameras or preference for cameras also changes significantly as we move up the price tier. So I think $200 to $400, that is where most of the consumers will look for. And interestingly, if you look at from the supply chain side, we are seeing a lot of choice in this segment as well. So very tough choice for consumers because we have a lot of options coming into this price tier. So yeah, a short answer is the demand is going to be there, and it's going to be a bit of difficult choice for the consumers to pick which one to go for.
All right, thanks, Tarun, and thanks, everyone. We're going to take a quick pause and then come back with the Q&A session, so don't go away. So thanks, everyone. We're going to move to the Q&A session now. We've got a couple of questions in on the live chat. We also had a couple of questions that were submitted earlier, so we'll start with those, and if we have time, we'll get to the live questions. If we don't have time, we will get back to you. So if I can start with a question for you, Jimmy, and I'm going to ask Yang again to do the translation here. So Jimmy, from the smartphone maker's perspective, what is the marketing advantage for having a good or a great camera?
Thanks, Peter. 谢谢 Peter。那 Jimmy 第一个问题给您的，从贵司作为一个智能手机制造商的角度来看，你们觉得拥有一个好的相机，它的营销优势是什么
？OK， 好，谢谢杨。就是说，进入了2010年之后啊，全球都逐步的进入手机摄影的时代。然后呢，就是说手机的相机它的一个表现已经成为用户最关注的一个价值点啊。因此，就是我们 Techno 在手机不断迭代的过程中，也将我们的影像的表现作为我们整个战略发展的一个重点啊。所以就是我们在影像产品的一个规划过程中，会反复的我们自己会去问及一些 一些问题啊，比如我们真正想解决的用户的痛点是什么啊，然后我们将会以哪种核心技术去实现它，以及解决这个问题对于这个行业是意味着什么啊。对，然后就是我们相信，就市场的竞争力是始终来自于我们如何去贴近用户的需求啊。我简单举2个例子，比如我们做了对新兴市场用户他的一个肤色更友好的 RGBW 的 sensor 啊，那这个 sensor 它充分利用了 white 这个 pattern 来实现更加自然的一个美拍啊。还有就是我们手机特有的定制化的美颜，比如对于我们的中东和印度市场的用户，我们会特别针对他们想要突出的五官的特征，比如突出高鼻梁、美瞳、美唇等等五官的一个特征。同时，我们还可以细化到女生的睫毛，还有比如说印度男性他比较 care 他的胡须，对吧？我们保留他们胡须的一个细致的一个细节啊。还有就是我们最近上市的卡曼Spa Premier 也增加了超级月亮模式，这个是依靠 AI 的深度学习的算法，那用户就不需要去过多的去调整一些参数，他们就可以很轻松的拍出具有美感的月亮的大片啊。所以以上这些都是我们基于用户去做的一个定制化的一个影像产品的体验啊。所以在我们看来，影像领域的市场竞争力始终来自于我们的聚焦啊，比如我们的深肤色赛道，我们聚焦深肤色赛道，还有就是我们始终是站在用户的视角，以用户为中心，和用户共同的去定义，不断的去突破创新。好，谢谢啊。
谢谢 Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. I'm gonna paraphrase what Jimmy has mentioned in a very comprehensive answer. So Jimmy said that from around 2010 and onwards, the world really entered into the era of mobile photography. And for Techno, they see that image performance is a very strategic area. So they're very focused in this segment. They believe that their competitiveness comes from how they can address the needs of users, which can vary on a number of things. So Jimmy brought up the example of beautification features on their phones that are geared to things like skin tones, facial features of users in their core markets, as well as an RGBW sensor technology that is more friendly to users in emerging markets, and making full use of the white pattern to achieve a more natural shot. Jimmy also mentions the Canon 18 Premier phone, which Techno recently launched. It has added a super moon mode. So relying on the AI deep learning algorithm, users do not need to adjust too many parameters to create a beautiful shot. So all of these are examples of Techno's philosophy, which is making things easier for users being the key. So in conclusion, Jimmy says that Techno believes that competitiveness comes from offering their customers a customized imaging product experience based on their true needs. Back to you, Peter.
Okay, thanks, Yang. And actually, you pick up at that one of the questions was asked as what are the benefits of AI in smartphone photography, and I'll have a crack at that. Which and you've kind of touched on it a bit here. So what AI is able to do is one of the things it's able to do is sort of scene selection and then adjusting the settings on the camera to provide the best possible result based on comparing that scene with samples of millions of similar scenes that have been shot. So that's very quickly one way that AI can help. So if I can bring in Hervé now. Hervé, in your presentation, you mentioned briefly some of the challenges of capturing kind of action footage. So, there are action cameras out there, I'll mention GoPro. Others are available. What are the difficulties in producing a kind of a GoPro-like feature or capability in a smartphone?
Thank you, Peter. I would say the main challenge is the hardware, because this kind of camera should be as small as possible and should be mounted easily. So once we say that, we will not be able to use the smartphone camera for some specific use case where we would use a GoPro. But if you look at the camera capabilities of smartphone, and if you look at the latest GoPro specification. In fact, overall, on the camera point of view, the smartphone industry is already providing very good hardware for ultra-wide camera. I am mostly speaking about ultra premium. The video resolution provided by GoPro is now almost on 5K. So here, this is a part of the challenge. For now, I would say that ultra premium devices are able to provide this kind of resolution, but not maybe other segments. So that would be a part of the job. And here we are speaking about chipset capabilities mostly. Then we have the HDR capabilities, which are also very important, and the stabilization capabilities. GoPro developed very dedicated stabilization solution that are really efficient for very strong movement, and they have also dedicated hardware for that, which takes a bit more space than what we have currently on smartphone. But smartphone already provides some very good stabilization solution, and in fact, they are already providing camera hardware solutions that are even maybe better on the paper. So if you think strong software capabilities with stabilization, ISP capabilities that are very good on ultra premium, I think that on the paper, a very good ultra premium could provide very similar capabilities than a GoPro camera, for example. For the rest of the industry, I mean cheaper segment, here the ISP is the main challenge. They need to provide sufficient capabilities in order to manage HDR format and high resolution.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the principal issue is one of form factor as much as anything.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Hervé. Dr. Pan, if I can turn to you for the next question. And this is a question asked in the live Q&A as well, which is that can smartphones one day provide the same picture quality as a DSLR? And actually, my daughter got married at the weekend, and I was paying very close attention to what the photographer was using. He had two DSLRs with him, and I saw some of the early results, and they were phenomenal. And I was thinking, yeah, you couldn't really do this with a smartphone right now, but will that happen one day? And is it going to come from computational photography, bigger sensor, or is it something to do with innovation in lens technology?
Thanks, Peter. I think that's a great question, because camera quality is almost the most important features of the smartphone today. So yes, we are right on the way to implement the DSLR camera performance inside the smartphone. With both directions, actually, you mentioned. One is the computational graphic technology. The other is, more big size of the sensor. So as we may already know that on the DSLR camera, if you want to take a picture with a special effects or with best image quality, you need to change a different lens according to different scenarios. And so similarly, in smartphone, we accomplish this by simultaneously putting multiple camera modules inside the smartphone. That's why you can see quite many inside the smartphone, the camera modules. And then we switch between them by software according to different scenario, like a brighter situation or darker situation, or motion or those different scenarios. Then we could get good image quality. This is this is the way with computational graphic direction to achieve DSLR performance inside the smartphone. On the other hand, as you may already know, I think just like Jamie mentioned in his introduction, that for now, for the high-end smartphone, the main camera, the sensor size is already close to 1 inch, and the next year maybe even more than 1 inch, which is the sensor size wise, even we actually have no big gap for smartphone and the DSLR camera. But the real issue is the optical lens mechanics. Once the sensor size is getting bigger, you can say that the module size will getting bigger and the module getting thicker. You always can say like high-end smartphone, you will see a big bump at the back of the smartphone. And once the sensor size is getting even bigger and the bump will even thicker. So that is the real issue. In this direction, we are developing some concept to mitigate the bump thickness now. So in summary, we are targeting to implement DSLR camera performance inside the smartphone right on the way, and with both directions, computational graphics and the sensor size. Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Pan. We're running out of time, so we've just got time for one more question. And as I say, if you have asked a question and we've not addressed it, we will get back to you by email. But last question for you, Tarun. Smartphone cameras have already disrupted the point-and-shoot camera market. We've seen that very clearly in the sales data. What's next?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So obviously, DSLR capture quality has already been talked about, and I think Dr. Pan explained it nicely, but that seems to be the natural progression where we are heading actually. And there will be a lot of technical limitations that will be solved over a period of time. Like Dr. Pan mentioned, that it's not a point of like sensor, it's more about like the optical lens, and it's all about the real estate of the phone, right? Because you have a limited real estate. The moment that real estate becomes expanded, maybe with the new form factors like the foldables, this discussion will reach to a different point altogether. So I think one is that limitation that will overcome over a period of time, and then within the hardware and the software side of it, there will be an evolution every year. Like we are already hitting new benchmarks at high end, with Samsung announcing almost 200 megapixel Isocell HP1 sensor, and more OEMs are actually introducing like sensors like depth and the macro cameras. Almost like 1/3 of the phones that are now being sold comes with these sensors. And then on top of it, the more powerful processor, as we basically transition to the 5G, that will make everything from, let's say, the image processing to the actual shooting experience much better in coming times. I think you have briefly mentioned on the AI experience as well. So yeah, those are the things that are likely to evolve over a period of time in the camera side of things.
All right, thanks, Tarun. And yeah, and now we have run out of time. In fact, we've gone a bit over time. So we have to wrap up the webinar now. My thanks to our contributors, Mr. Jimmy Su from Techno, Mr. Hervé Mat-Kudzinski from Dxomark, Dr. Pan Schwebao from Samsung, and Tarun Patak from Counterpoint Research. And thanks, Yang, for some great translations. So I've been Peter Richardson from Counterpoint. Thanks, everyone, for joining the webinar. Have a good rest of your day, wherever you are. And if you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving. All right, bye now.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.